I'm Uncle Mark, welcome to the channel. Glad you can come along and watch me put a timing chain on this 2.4 EcoBoost engine. This is actually in a 2013 GMC Terrain. It'll be the same on the Equinox and quite a few other of the vehicles that have this engine. Just double check specs and anything I quote for foot-pounds and that for torque. So the cams have to be sitting in a certain spot to put them on. I've got the head off on here because I did valves and valve guides or valve stems. Seals, I guess is what I did. So I'm just showing here the way the marks have to be on these. These actually have cam phasers. Some of the engines didn't have this variable valve timing, so that they would just be the sprockets, but it should be similar. Now this one, the arrows are supposed to point, timing arrows point roughly like 10 and 2 or 11 and 1. So you can see here this cam is not letting it point the right way. So what I need to do is get that arrow, there it is, just a little bit further, and the cam just wants to go just a little bit further than that with all the valves. It's kind of pushing on it. The spring's kind of pulling me to the right, so I'm just gonna turn it a little bit and let it flick. I'm gonna pull my wrench out of the way. That was quick. Done.
That should be right.
Here, I'll show you in slow motion. Just didn't want the wrench hitting any of the metal on the engine. So there we can see it's roughly 10 and 2 or whatever it is. And it just has to line it up on the chain. So this brand, and it seems every brand has a different way they mark these chains. This one's got a gold one and 2 black ones. Now I thought the 2 black ones would be both those cam sprockets on top, but in this situation, no. It looks like one of the gold is for one of the cam sprockets or phasers. That's going to be this one here, the front one, the intake. And then the other black one is going to be to our left. It's going to be for the other sprocket for the phasers for the cam. And then that last black one is going to be in the very bottom. It's going to be on your crank. It'll all make sense here in a minute. So I looked at it and I was trying to figure out this timing's not going to work for the way they've got these marked. But sometimes what they'll do is one of the marks will actually have 2 colored links in the chain, but this one just has 1 for each. So there's the gold one there. That's going to match up with that. So I have to drop the chain down through that hole. Try and get it to be over all this kind of stuff. So I get it on this little sprocket. Sprocket also has a mark on it. I did do a video on putting the chain on for the cam sprockets and your water pump. Put a link on the top right hand corner. See the blinking yellow arrow? That points to a card there. You can click on that if you want to see that. Back to the top of the engine. I'm going to try and get this sprocket sitting on the cam properly. Again, I took it off to get the chain down the bottom there. And you'll notice all this is being done in the vehicle. I'll have some other videos on the rest of this process, but I figured a lot of times when I'm looking for something, I want to just see the one that I need answered. Now, this is one of the chain guides, and it goes in through the top here like this. It comes through the bottom, and that's going to sit right about there. Now there's a mark under here, and there's a little washer that needs to be taken off, and I tried to poke it with my fingernail, and it's like it moves. I just can't get it to come away from there. So try a little pick, and of course I don't want to damage it. I don't want to damage anything here, but tried that a little bit more. Not working. Played with it for also got a magnet, and look at this, boom. Magnet just took it off. I mean, that was simple. I thought it's not going to take it off. That's what it is. Don't lose that. And now I'm going to get this chain to sit properly first, and then I'll put that guide on because it'll actually hold it in place. I'll hold the chain because we're going to time it here. So see the dot there. That goes with that 1 link, marked link. If we move this over and hand tighten this bolt, you'll see that that guide is almost sitting on the chain. It's just close enough that it won't fall off the sprocket. so it'll stay in time. If we pull this thing back from the top, a second person would be nice to have when you're doing this. I helped a buddy do his a while ago, and it was nice just to have two hands, somebody to hold something, or you to hold it. Made it a little easier, but I did it all by myself. Wasn't too hard. It looks like it's going to be a big thing to do, but not bad if you're following, you know, step by step. Now, you see the length there. I had pointed it out. It's the second one for the cam phazer or from just the cam sprockets, depending on if you have the phazer VVT system or not. Sorry, it's out of focus. I didn't realize that until later. But basically, I'm just trying to get the sprocket on the chain, and then this, or the chain on the sprocket, and then get the sprocket on the cam. So what I'm doing here with the intake cam is I've got my wrench, and then I'm going to just move that cam a little bit so that the chain allows a little bit of slack so that I can turn the sprocket for the exhaust exhaust. So I'm wiggling that cam with my wrench. I guess I could have done it at the back, and it looks like here I did actually end up going to the back and moving that one around a little bit too. So I see they're still lined up. That's something I got to check because I do not want it out. So you see that arrow. I actually took a little marker and just made a little mark on there too so that it was a lot brighter. Saved a little bit of hassle. And down here we see the inner one is all in time. It actually needs to be just turned just a teeny bit, but everything lines up, so it's we're good. 89 inch-pounds is what all these guides are going to be tightened to. It's not a whole lot. You'll want an inch-pound torque wrench for sure for that. They're cheap. You can get them really cheap now. They just send a guy doesn't, you know, make them too tight, but you want them not too loose. Using my little thumb ratchet here, or finger ratchet, whatever they're really called. It's reversible too, so they're nice. I'm gonna snug that bolt up. I'll put a link in the description for one of those too. If you want to get a set of them, they're really handy. Costs you nothing extra. I do get a little bit for suggesting you try them. Now, the top of this guide is held in here. You can just see it. We'll show you in a minute. Same kind of bolt that holds all the other ones. Here's an Uncle Mark super trick. I'm just going to put a little bit of tape around it. That way the bolts will stay on the socket, but not so much tape that I can't get the socket off of it after. And in the hole, and I'm going to wiggle it around and try and get it to start threading. And I guess for some reason, the chain guide there is not exactly where I need to be. So I'm going to use something else to try and get the guide in the right place. I'm using one of my bigger drill bits. Try and line it up with the hole. Once I had it lined up, then I can get the bolt in and snug her up. So we get it snugged up. Now I can tighten that other chain bolt. Again, 89 inch-pounds, there's one at the bottom there, right? And then we'll do this one, same thing. Kind of hard to do holding it and holding the camera at the same time, but it's doable. There, that's good. Now, this goes back in there. I'm gonna use a little bit of Teflon tape, just so it doesn't leak. They were suggesting you use some kind of barrier like this. So I'm just gonna go around a couple times, and that should be good enough. Doesn't want to go on properly. All right, there we go. And put her in. Hand tighten it with Fingers first. It's a T55 torque. That's what we use to take it out. Tighten that guy up. And the specs seem to be, this is supposed to torque to 66 foot-pounds. Of course, those of you in the know will realize that was an inch-pounds torque wrench, so I'm going to get my big one out and tighten them up properly. Now, these are my phazer sprocket bolts. These are the GM numbers. They were cheap through GM, so I got them through GM. And these are torque to yield, so we need to torque them down to the specified amount, and then we've got to go and do a twist on them after. So this is 22 foot-pounds. I'm loving this 18 millimeter bolt. Loving this torque wrench. My buddy Tim from Online Auto Repairs sent me it as a gift. Thank you. You should check his website out, onlineautorepairvideos.com. You can find a whole bunch of videos there and some tech support. He has a small charge for that, but lots of good stuff there to learn. Big help. Now I'm using this item here. It's torque angle gauge. This is how we're going to figure out how many degrees we have to turn past what we've already done. So we've got our torque on them with a special kind of bolts. So you'll need one of these little meters. Now they're cheap also. You'll use them a lot, like if you do a head bolt or something like that later on, or some other things too. They use these kind of torque to yield bolts. So I'm going to set it to 0. And as we turn it, it's going to go up to the right number, we're hoping. Try to get it to sit here properly. Sit there and actually still be at 0. Might have to fiddle with it a little bit. Just double checking. Yeah, it looks like we're at 0. So we need to go to 100 degrees, which is roughly going to be there. Just past the 90 on this one. I need to hold the cam with my 24 millimeter wrench because the cam can't turn. And I don't want to rest that against the head at all because you'll crack the aluminum. That is tough to turn. I need something bigger. I only got 30 degrees out of it and I was pulling with all my might, but this is a small little bar. So I'm going to get a bigger one, see if that works. I have to try not to mess up what the gauge has said, so always good to double check, see where you were.
Just gonna make it too.
And it wants to hit the firewall now with this bigger bar. It's like I can't win for losing. So I'm gonna try the little one again, see if I can pull a little harder. And I was able to, but only made it to 50. I need to go to 100. It's got a big bar in again because it did move a little bit, so I was able to get a little more room to be able to pull the bar. Because remember before it was the wrong angle and it was either hitting a firewall or it was hitting the rad. And we're getting closer and closer.
Just about.
It's good to have one of these big breaker bars to be able to do something like this. I guess I could use a torque wrench as well. And it's close enough, looks like. I'm going to call it close enough. What are we, like a degree or something like that? Same on the back. I'm going to speed this up. This was the harder one to do in the engine because of that firewall. And the strut tower as well.
Here, I guess 100.
So I'm going to try and set it to 0 and see where, I'm not too worried about the 0 part, but where it ends up in the end. So as long as we have it set at 0 and it sits there properly, then once I'm pulling my big pry bar, I'll be able to see when the needle gets close to the 100 mark. I must tell you, this was a tough thing to get at. Maybe the professionals have a little better tool to be able to do this. I think some of them, actually, the torque wrench will do it for you, but you're going to pay a lot more for that type of a torque wrench. And in most cases, I haven't had to use something like that before. Setting it to 0. Making sure that little finger is there too, so that it'll, that's what holds the rest of the gauge. So it can count up or count down to the number. So 0, yeah, it wants to hit that there. We'll just speed it up. Limited room, as you can see. Just pulled it out and trying to move it over a little bit. I guess if this was a ratcheting bar, that would sure help. Note to self, it'd be nice if it was ratcheting. A few more times, and it's got to work. Just doing a little more repositioning, trying not to mess up the progress we've made already. Always looking at that gauge because if you know what it was at before you pull it off and it does move, you could reset it to whatever your last progress was. End up using the short bar again and the long bar, and it's like whatever is going to work. Basically, between the two, maybe if I had a little a pipe on there, might have helped a little bit too. Then you're struggling with the pipe as well, so after filling with this and filling with that and getting, you know, a couple degrees here, a couple degrees there, and trying to be able to, easier to pull on it than push down, at least at this angle. Finally, thought I'm just going to use my torque wrench on this one too. Of course, I'm not going to use my fancy digital one. I'm just going to use a cheaper click type I have. And give her a pull.
We're at it already.
Again, a second set of hands would be so nice. And it's done, and we have liftoff. Everything is still lined up. Well, it should be. Good to double check in, or I don't. Why wouldn't it be? But that's what it should look like. And it looks like we're pretty much done that part of it. I also need to put this tensioner in. This is interesting. Now this is 1 1/4 inch or 32 millimeters. Now the whole reason I am doing all this work is because somebody had put one of these tensioners in. They did all the same work that I'm doing now, and the tensioner didn't snap and pop open to actually provide tension on the chain, and it got driven for a little while. I think they got away with 3 months supposedly. I don't know how much they drove it. And then the chain finally jumped on the highway and bent all the valves, and then ended up buying it from them and taking a chance that we can get this thing running. So it should be able to just get it in the back there and hand tighten it. And there's going to be a torque spec that we have to do on this as well. Isn't there always? It takes a lot of ratcheting to get it to tighten up. So once we got it somewhere in there, then you're going to have to be able to get your torque wrench in here. Again, not a whole lot of room with the firewall. 55 foot-pounds is what it needs to be set at. It's nice that, well, click type would be okay too. One nice thing about this one that's digital is as you get closer to the specified torque, it starts beeping slowly and then faster and faster until you get to it. So 55 foot-pounds is what that tensioner is supposed to be torqued at, and I'll just show you here how sloppy the chain is. Definitely not tight because there's another step I need to do, and the step is here. I'll show you how loose this is from the bottom and from the back, just so you see what the difference is from before and after. Now through the magic of editing, this is before I actually put that tensioner in the back, just to show you how much slack there can be. This is with the tensioner in, and it still has slack. Watch the chain there move. We haven't, there's a spring there we need to pop. Just so you can make sure that, did it pop? And I'm saying that it didn't for the original person that put this together, because I tried popping it later. When I unscrewed it to take the old one out, I could see it was still in its locked position. I'll have a little video on that. Maybe I'll try and put the top right corner here. Now what you want to do is take a rubber handled something or other. It shouldn't be metal because you're hitting against a metal chain. And you want to whack it a few times, and it should pop that tensioner to start giving tension. and you don't really hear a snap or anything. So it's like, did it work or didn't? I was hitting it pretty hard. So I'm just gonna poke around here a little bit, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty loose still. It's like, yeah, it's pretty loose. What a difference after I was able to hit it again, and look at that. It's, you can't move it. It's nice and tight. So you want to make sure that that thing is tight, and you can go underneath as well and make sure the chain doesn't move around like we saw earlier. And that's that. So got her done. Am I happy about that? The biggest thing would be, again, that tensioner. Boy, that's something that you got to make sure it's tight. As these folks found out, whoever did it before must have just thought, you know, by whacking that chain there, they had done it right, but it didn't actually tension. It didn't provide the tension. Must have been faulty right from brand new, because it looks brand new. Anyway, please give me the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. That'll help YouTube know I'm doing a good job. You can also subscribe down in the corner there. That way, next time I have a video out, you'll get the notifications. Plus, on this engine, well, it depends on what you're driving, I guess. This was in a Terrain. I'll put a link up in the description here, I guess, for a Terrain, but you may have had this engine in quite a few different GM or Chevy models. Until next time, I'm Uncle Mark saying, hopefully this step-by-step was of help to you. Let your friends know about it. Till next time, I'm saying bye-bye from now. Please subscribe, and you'll get all the notifications. It's easy. The little dog will show you how. Ring the bell. Ring the bell.